Welcome to Top Tier Wrestling, your ultimate destination for all things AEW and WWE. Whether you're a hardcore wrestling fanatic or just a casual viewer, we've got you covered with the latest news, in-depth show reviews, and our unfiltered opinions on everything happening in the world of professional wrestling. Join us as we dive into the high-octane action, dramatic storylines, and backstage buzz of AEW and WWE. Get ready to step into the ring with us and stay on top of the wrestling world. This is Top Tier Wrestling. Welcome, everyone, to Top Tier Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Big Bronson Josh, with my co-host, Dawn freaking Rollins. And things are about to get crazy as we cover WWE RAW's results and episode from October 21st. Let's go. To start things...
sorry.
I
Go
absolutely
applaud. I applaud you saying the name that you gave yourself correctly because even in my head I did not do it right. So good job.
Thank you. We start this episode of Raw in the backstage area, and we see several different wrestlers arriving on scene. But we end it with Seth Rollins running in and attacking Big Bronson Reed as he's making his way in from the parking lot. And he knocks Bronson Reed down. I think, what did he have in his hands? A briefcase or something like that? He started hitting him initially with?
I don't know. He came at him so fast. All I saw was a spider monkey blur. That's all I saw.
That's fair, because Big Bronson Reed more or less entirely obscured Seth Rollins running up behind him as he was walking. The camera was like facing Bronson as he was walking towards it. And we just see Seth Rollins clobber Bronson Reed from behind and start attacking him. And then Seth, once security kind of jumped in and got on it, he starts walking immediately through the gorilla position, and his music starts to play, and he heads immediately to the ring. And then the second the crowd was starting to ho with Seth, he says, "Cut it, Philly, let's get crazy right here, right now. Bronson Reed, you want to be famous, big boy? I'll make your ass famous. Get out here and let's fight." And Adam Pearce immediately runs out to kill all of our fun. And
thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean we're all here for it, right? And of course, you know, Adam Pearce. Yep. Commander Buzzkill. He appears out on the stage with security guards, and they're trying to calm down Big Bronson Reed. And I remember it was pretty funny because you saw at least one or two security guards just come flying out of the gorilla position onto the stage.
Yeah.
As Reed was making his way out. And so they're trying to keep Bronson from getting to the ring, and they only slow him down a little bit once he makes it to ringside, and Seth Rollins does a huge suicide dive on everyone. And then Rollins goes to start fighting with Reed, and Reed kind of starts fighting back, and he ends up driving Rollins into the ring apron, where shortly thereafter he rolls Rollins into the ring. And Seth gets off, I think, a little bit more offense before Reed grabs him up and hits him with a massive Death Valley driver. And it looks like Reed is about to go back up for a tsunami in the ring. But Rollins rolls out. And then that allows Reed to hop back down. And from the apron, he hits him with a flying shoulder tackle, which we've seen him do before. And then he sets Rollins up flat on the announce table. And while he's setting up to dive on Seth Rollins from, I think that little like ring announcer barricade that's right next to the announce table, he like yeets a security guard onto a whole bunch of other security guards because they were in his way.
Yeah.
And then he goes for a tsunami, but Rollins gets out of the way, so Reed just comes crashing through the table. And that's how we start Monday Night Raw.
Yes.
We end up with Wade and Joe talking about how this might have set the new record for the fastest amount of time that their desk has been destroyed on television.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just standing there, making they're standing there giving their commentary while the desk is crumbled.
Indeed. And I mean, oof to Big Bronson Reed, because he just straight dove through that desk and it exploded. Like,
It did,
there's
yes.
lots of times that the announce desk refuses to cooperate. This time it was on board for all of it. Like, there was one
Yeah.
little side piece of the desk that flew up in the air and I think might have hit Seth Rollins. It was pretty intense and
The
a
desk
really
the
high
desk just
octane way to
gave it up.
start.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
desk gave it all up. The desk was done. I even would I'm so I'm happy that they replayed it too, because when I first saw it, I was like, "Wait, did it explode before he landed?" But no.
Nope.
I was like, was the desk just screaming before he touched it? Was the desk like, "No, not again"? I mean, like,
Yeah, no, he kill obliterated it. All of that explosion was Reed collapsing into the ground.
yeah,
And oof. But
amazing.
after the like chaos of the opener, we are taken backstage where Jackie Redmond is interviewing Damage Control. And Io Sky indicates that they have unfinished business with Bianca and Jade. But that's when Liv Morgan, for some reason, shows up and says,
Oh, right.
your interview's over because it's me now. It's all about me, 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 me. And she wants to talk about what Nia Jax did to her last week. And she states that she feels that Nia is jealous of her because she has it all. The women's belt, the Judgment Day, a Raquel Rodriguez, and I guess apparently the sexiest man alive, Dominic
Oh,
Mysterio.
come on. I'm so
Um,
glad that they haven't eaten yet.
yeah. And she goes on to say that after Crown Jewels, she'll have all of the bragging rights as well. And then Damage Control, who have just kind of been standing there the entire time that Liv was saying all this, takes issue with Liv interrupting their interview and challenges her and Raquel Rodriguez to a tag team match that night. And that brings us to the first match of the night, which is the New Day versus the Authors of Pain with the Final Testament in tow in a number one contenders match for the tag team championships. So it occurred to me when I saw this, and maybe I was a little slow on the uptake, that apparently both brands are currently having a number one contenders kind of a tournament
Yeah.
For those tag championships. And we also thought, with the Authors of Pain and Final Testament out there, maybe this will be where Xavier kind of makes his turn on, the New Day.
Yeah.
But given the events of this match, I don't know now if that's going to be how this plays out. Although I don't think everything is good in Judgment Dayville either. So this match was
Wait, in Judgment Day you said, or in New Day?
I meant New Day if I said Judgment Day. My bad.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
There's so many days.
So so many.
But this match was okay-ish. It felt to me like it was a whole lot of watching Kofi and Xavier twist like either Akam or Razar's arm,
You're
because
not wrong.
that's about all that they can do with those big fellas
Yeah.
relative to Kofi and Razar. I
Yeah.
think at one point Kofi was able to land the boom drop and he attempted Trouble in Paradise, but ended up being caught and fall away slammed for the effort. And I think at one point Akam attempted an Uranagi, but it looked like an Ura just drop him. Yeah, like there was no
Yeah.
intensity to it whatsoever. It was like a pickup and then a let go. On the whole, Akam and Razar versus the New Day wasn't like a great match, but I don't think it was intended to be. I think this was for the purposes of storyline more than anything.
Yeah, and also I think that uh it was meant to keep those two dudes from advancing for the belts,
Yeah,
because what
yeah.
would be how would you honestly sell that they couldn't get those belts? I mean, I guess you'd have to do a lot of what you've done with the match that they just had with the New Day, I guess. But I mean, it's just honestly, they're powerhouses, these guys, and I feel like the only way that they could make these guys jobbers is to do something like what they've been doing with them every time they get into the ring. If it's not a squash match, to show you that they are absolutely destruction wielders, then it's a match where they're going against like a superstar. You ever notice how WWE can find just like a local talent sometimes, but not all the time. All the time, like sometimes you'll just randomly see somebody in the ring that's like a local wrestler, and then they get squashed. But then other times, they just can't seem to find anybody, so they use their superstars, which is weird. But like when it comes to Arkham and basically the Arthurs of Pain, right? I think that's the
Yeah,
name of that group. Yeah,
that is.
when it comes
Yep.
to them, they usually can find a job or two. Um, so that's weird. That's really weird. And when I think about it, if I think about it, they seem to do that a lot with big wrestlers. But I'm getting way,
Yeah.
way off topic. Uh, but I digress. Um, so I mean, I guess it was twofold, the storyline, and I'm not. I know it sounds like I'm complaining, but I'm not. I get it. I get it, and it was pretty cool anyway how they ended up doing it. If you'd like to
Yeah.
get into it, or if you'd like me to, we can.
I think the only issue I take with this match is that it was a relatively mediocre match, and I can only presume that's because of the size disparity
Yeah,
and the fact that it didn't need to be that much of a match. This was a vehicle for conveying what happened next.
yeah,
Pretty
yeah,
much
I
after
agree.
that big fallaway slam, our truth ends up running out there to start teeing off on the Miz for betraying him.
Hmm.
Truth apparently was coherent enough to realize that Miz did that to him, and
Yeah,
he starts wailing on the Miz, and he looks good doing it. And Truth also nails Karrion Cross with a big pump kick. And while all this chaos is going on inside the ring, Kofi rolls Rizar up to pick up a quick pinfall victory. Um, and then New Day hightails it out of there while R-Truth is catching a beat down from the entirety of the Final Testament. And Karrion Cross is completely disinterested in Truth. He's a means to an end because he's still staring down the ramp at the New Day who have exited, with Kofi wanting to go back and help R-Truth, and Xavier making it clear that they have just won a number one contenders match and the titles are where their head needs to be at. Kofi isn't even a member of the New Day and whatnot. And so you see that continued tension of like Kofi wanting to be a good guy and Xavier wanting to be like not.
yeah,
So I'm not sure if the Final Testament and Karrion Cross are done with Xavier, but the reason I think that they're not necessarily that interested in it, or that it's not like that significant to what happens next, is that the thing that stops the beating on R-Truth is the appearance of the Wyatt Six, who have now taken exception to the Final Testament. And another thing worth pointing out is that the Miz was out there as part of the Final Testament. Like, he was dressed all in black, so
yeah,
it should be stated that there shouldn't be too much doubt that the Miz is rolling with the Final Testament right now. And the Wyatt Six attacks. The lights go down, then they come back up, and Nikki is on the top rope. And as the Final Testament starts to get a clue as to what's going on, Scarlett turns to the corner that Nikki is on the top rope of, and Nikki immediately dives on her, and that launches the Wyatt Six attacking all of Final Testament, with the sole exception being the Miz and Paul Ellering. Paul Ellering is kind of off in a corner, and the Miz is huddled in a ball in the center of the ring as Rowan and Loomis and what's his name? Gacy are all fighting off all of the other members of the Final Testament, all the way into the crowd. And so the Miz stands up and sort of looks around and then poses, pleased with his luck that he made it out without being attacked, only for Uncle Howdy to show up behind him. However, Paul Ellering approaches from the corner, and instead, the Miz gets away from Uncle Howdy, and Uncle Howdy plants the mandible claw on Paul Ellering until Paul Ellering, I guess, is for sure dead. And then we end the segment with Uncle Howdy saying, "My life for you," while he kneels with his arms in the air in the middle of the ring. And this was something we had kind of speculated on. That Uncle Howdy and the Wyatt Six would take exception to Karrion Kross's shenanigans to get, brothers to betray one another. And so it makes perfect sense that they would attack the Final Testament. And but it does leave kind of a hanging question mark as to what is going on with Xavier and what is going on, there with regards to like Karrion Kross. Like, is that still going to be a thing, or did it get deflected to the Miz? Because I think Miz is kind of taking over what they were trying to do with Xavier, but they're still not entirely done with dissension in the ranks, at least in the New Day.
Yeah. I'm not
And
I'm not really sure what they're doing here. Like, you remember for a second there, they kept talking about how their 10-year anniversary was coming up. Um,
mhm.
and then I don't know what happened. I don't know if they ever actually had a celebration for it, but it kind of just faded into the background. And then Kofi mentioned Big E randomly early on, but then kind of sort of after that, they kind of started going a different. I don't know what's happening. They started going a different route. So, we'll see, I suppose.
Well, if I had to completely speculate, and I kind of do, I think
Yeah.
initially WWE was like, we're going to have Karrion Kross break up somebody. And I
Yeah.
think they were looking at New Day initially. And
Mhm.
the reason for that is that they knew early on they want the Final Testament versus the Wyatt Six, right? Both kind of supernatural, dark kind of groups going one on one with each other. And so the idea was that Karrion Kross would be sort of this I sow the seeds of dissension, kind of a character. And he's been doing that. And so they were like, well, in order to match up against the Wyatt Six, I mean, Paul Ellering notwithstanding, he's a valet, not a wrestler. He's like a billion years old. But they were like, well, mathematically, then we're going to need another man because
Yeah.
we're one man shy of what the Wyatt Six has if we don't have one more guy.
Yeah.
So they were going to peel Xavier into the Final Testament in order for them to go against the Wyatt Six. But that plan changed for reasons, and I'll speculate on that in just a moment. So
Mhm.
it's been deflected now to the Miz having broken apart the Awesome Truth.
Right.
And so now you have the right number of people to have a match between the Final Testament and the Wyatt Six, right?
Mhm.
So that's
Mhm.
that's my speculation on why that was done. And that the Final Testament ultimately needed one more wrestler if they're going to match up pound for pound, person for person with what the Wyatt Six has. Now, moving on to the New Day and my speculation there, I think they started with the New Day, but somewhere along the way, and I've heard this in the rumor mill online, they're hoping that Big E might be able to get healthy enough and cleared to potentially make a return. And to that end, they decided that the New Day would be better used going that direction. And that what will happen is that Big E will help patch up this bit of a rift that seems to be developing between Xavier and Kofi when he returns. That's my theory anyway.
Yeah.
And
I
that's why
man,
it sort of moved from Xavier to Miz
I'm
almost
here
like
for
out of nowhere.
it. I mean, also the
Hmm.
Miz is kind of a better fit for the what what is it? Last Testament.
Final
Um,
Testament, yeah.
Final Testament. Yes. Sorry, I just don't see like Xavier. Listen, I would be interested to see Xavier go heel. Yeah, just because that's something I wouldn't even expect, right? So I would be interested to see it, but I know for a fact that I always enjoy when Miz is a heel. Um, Whenever he's a face, it's almost as if he's trying too hard. Um, and it's almost like uncomfortably difficult for him to be for him to be a
Yeah,
face.
yeah. He's definitely a better heel than a face. I think that comes more
Much better
naturally
heel.
to
Yeah.
Mizanin.
So I'm always happy to see it. And I don't know. I think he'd look pretty cool in Final Testament.
Yes.
Yeah. Ha.
Yeah. So those are my speculations on why this has gone the way it's gone. And they'll still use that little bit of a rift between Xavier and Kofi um, as something to be patched up pretty much with the return of Big E. And I'm with you. I'm here for it, especially if Big E is actually, in fact, healed up enough to make an in-ring return. Because the last update I think we got on that was that while he was healing up enough for normal day-to-day life, the bone wasn't necessarily hardening up enough for him to be able to get back into the ring from his neck injury. So if that has changed and he is fighting fit, I'm thrilled to see Biggie come back. Um, and I think that would be huge. Like him returning amidst like Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston on the verge of perhaps the breakup of the New Day. He pulls them all back together. Joined up with the huge pop for returning Big E, I think that could make a major impact.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah, so man, I would be excited. No lie, I'd be excited about it. Cause
Yeah.
I didn't think I honestly did not think that it would be possible. But if it's possible, let's go. Let's go.
Well, and not for nothing, the tag division could benefit from some heavyweights because I feel like
Absolutely.
Akam and Razar are kind of in limbo as these massive 300 plus pound guys
Yep.
that you have to try and match up with all of these like relative either light heavyweight or high flyer type teams. So, Big E would bring that heavyweight power back to the New Day so that maybe we could have a little less boring of a match than what we had with Akam and Razar and the New Day here.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
again, I felt like the New Day was largely just twisting their arms for the majority of that match because they can't really do anything else with them.
Yeah.
Um,
Flipping off their body. They can do that with
yeah,
with
stuff like that.
Kofi. Yeah. That's it.
Yep. And following that particular segment, which was interesting, a neat little subplot that's formulated, a couple of them actually, and that's always good. Nice movement there. But following that, we are taken to the backstage with Kathy Kelly, who is interviewing main event Jey Uso, and he goes on to say that ironically, he's in the city of brotherly love when he has no love for his brothers. And he goes on to say that he stands by what he told the Bloodline last week on SmackDown. But tonight, as far as he's concerned, Jay promises that by the end of the night, the crowd will be hearing still the Intercontinental Champion, Jey Uso. Yeet,
Yeet.
yeet. I thought we were going to keep it going.
Oh.
Anyway, then we cut to what looks like a pre-recorded promo of Raquel Rodriguez. And we were kind of excited because our complaint has been that, like, oh, good, here's Raquel back into the say very little big dumb lummox role. And, we're like, oh, maybe they listened. They're like, okay, they're letting her speak. And she says, Rhea Ripley says her business won't end with the Judgment Day until she gets her women's world championship back. But as long as Raquel's around, that's never going to happen. That costing Rhea at Bad Blood was just the warning shot. She also goes on to mention that she hasn't forgotten what Rhea did to Liv when she tore her shoulder apart and it took Liv out for 6 months. And she doesn't forget what she did to Liv and Raquel when Rhea ended up costing them both the women's tag titles. And that the only reason Rhea rose to the top was because Raquel was gone. But she's back now, and the smartest thing for Rhea to do is walk away. But since we all know you're not going to do that, this won't. If she's not going to end this, then Raquel will. And all told,
Right.
not a bad promo. And so I was feeling good. I was like, okay, maybe they realize that they need to flesh Raquel out a little bit more as a more complete superstar than just a
Mm-hmm.
prop to use with
Mm-hmm.
Liv. And
Right.
that promo aired in a timely fashion because the next match up was the match that had just gotten made earlier in the night between Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Damage Control.
May I?
You may.
Okay. Um, I don't know, guys. I woke up this morning and I said to myself that I would be much more positive about things that I've seen, that I have experienced, just in general, right? So I'm gonna be short and sweet with this one, because I don't have much positive things to say. I don't have many positive things to say. Um, the cool thing was Metaphor was was in the front row. Um, so they were there. That's that's good. Um, and you know what? All kidding aside, this was not a good match. Raquel looked very bad. She looked very goofy, and I don't know about you, Josh, but I am so fucking over big strong wrestlers being made to look
Oh
like
man,
big oofs. I'm
yeah,
so over it.
super
Okay?
over it. I believe I've gone on at least 2 diatribes about that, but I digress. Go ahead.
Raquel picked up both Kyrie and Io at one time, uh, one at a time. She also did it two at a time. Um, but she never at any point slammed anyone. She never power bombed anyone. No choke slams, no power moves, nothing. Not at any point in this fucking match, guys, does the power move wrestler do anything. She picks them up, she drops them. She clumsily gets tripped, she falls. She picks one up, they are squirrely apparently and get away from her. So then she's standing there like a big, like, oh, what do I do? Um, seriously. I don't even think she clotheslined anybody. She did nothing that displayed any type of power whatsoever. Um, so this was not a good freaking look. Liv Morgan has fully fallen into the character that can't do anything and uses her big muscle to do everything. I think she was in the match, I don't know, man, the beginning for maybe 10 seconds. She got hit too much and it hurt, I guess. So then she immediately ran into the corner to get Raquel into the ring. So that Raquel can look like a big dummy for some. I don't know. I don't know. Nothing, man. I can't think of, and I'm honestly trying to think of one one move she did, one power move. Oh my god.
Did she at any
I
point even do the fall away slam that she always likes to do? I'm trying to remember.
no. No, I don't think she did.
Yeah.
Like, man, I'm telling y'all, she didn't do anything. Like I, the axe kick, was that her? Nope, that was Kyrie. Um, yeah, there's, man, nothing, nothing. There's nothing that she did that was a power move. Literally,
Yeah.
she kept picking people up, and then somehow, uh, uh, they got away from her, or somebody knocked her feet out from under her, or something. I think the only power move, the only type of slam or anything of that nature was done by either Io. I think Io. She didn't do anything. Like, there was nothing. So short and sweet, guys. That it sucked. It it sucked. I think Damage Control ended up winning
By
because,
disqualification.
yeah, yeah, that's it. So we got to watch a very confused, goofy Rodriguez uh just kind of fumble in the ring for uh 5 to 8 minutes. We got to see her miss miss swings, miss attacks. We got to see her um uh hey, she had a really good match with the corner. We got to see her run into the turnbuckle, because that'll take down any big wrestler. Um uh
Yeah.
yeah, gosh,
If I can
I'm not
offer
trying to
my
be
two
funny.
cents,
Oh, the other good thing about it is, I think Rhea Ripley came out.
indeed.
Um that's about it, man. Please go ahead, Josh.
Well, I was just going to give my take on how this match went for me. I sort of figured that this would be an opportunity to showcase Rodriguez, especially coming
Yeah.
off of the promo that she just cut. I was like, okay, they
Yes.
let her talk. Now are they going to have her look good in the ring? Because she hasn't thus far.
Yeah.
And because Raquel was so much like throughout this match, Raquel was in the match much longer than Liv Morgan. And
Mhm.
I thought we're going to see Raquel throw around Damage Control, right? You know, both of them are much smaller than her, so this is her chance to kind of showcase some powerhousiness. It wasn't. I don't know if Rodriguez is suffering from ring rust, or if this is just as bad as she ever was on her original call up to the main roster. But she is so it comes across like she's concerned she's going to hurt these smaller women.
Yeah.
And therefore, a lot of her spots are incredibly choreographed. Like you can see her waiting to
Oh
make sure that
man.
the other women are ready for whatever's going to happen next. So
Oh.
it's really the timing is off, and she didn't much do anything that was powerful looking. In fact, this match, the two people that looked good in this match, for the most part, not exclusively, because Damage Control does the dumb again, which I'm
Well,
kind of annoyed with, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Io and Kyrie ended up looking competent in here against Rodriguez, and there is not too many situations in which I'm happy that Liv Morgan gets tagged in, but Rodriguez was looking so abysmally bad that we were both grateful when Liv Morgan got tagged in because
seriously.
Liv Morgan has her own sets of issues, but hers are not that the things she does in the ring don't look incredibly terrible. Her timing
Yeah.
is good. She doesn't
Yep.
look like she has to stall out and wait for her opponents to make sure that they're ready so she doesn't hurt them.
Yeah.
There's a much smoother timing and flow with what Liv Morgan is doing. So it should be saying something to say that I was pleased she got tagged in and Rodriguez got out, because Rodriguez was looking like nothing but a dumpster fire for her entirety of her performance in this match. It was not
Yeah.
good.
I honestly did not think that I could see Raquel Rodriguez in a weaker light, but
Yeah.
the promo built her up, and then seconds later, the match destroyed any type of hype that I may have had for her and Rhea. Or I don't want Raquel anywhere near Rhea Ripley. Um,
No,
if
because
this is
she
what we're
is,
gonna get, I'm not interested in that.
yeah,
Not at all.
she has absolutely not shown that she deserves to be in the ring, let alone in the ring with
No.
the best woman on the planet right now, which is Rhea Ripley.
Yeah.
And what's hurting it more is that, she was in a match with two of the smallest competitors that are there. I mean, Io
Seriously.
Sky and Kairi Sane are pretty little women. And Rodriguez should have been like one-handed throwing these chicks all over the place, and that's not at all how they decided to go with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Like
and whatever
what?
Rodriguez attempted to do looked really telegraphed. It looked very choreographed. It looked very slow, and it just none of it looked good. Raquel looked awful in the ring. She really needs help there or something, but it was
I
not
don't
at
know
all.
what
It was
happened, man.
like you said, I don't know how we could have seen Rodriguez in a worse light, because she's been looking terrible with everything she's done since she made her comeback, and this did not help at all, which is what
Oh
I
my
thought the point was going to be, and it wasn't.
honestly.
Now,
Like
moving on.
you honestly can't tell me that they thought that they were gonna make. God, I don't even know. I don't even know where to begin. I honestly don't. It just it tears me up, man. I don't know what they were doing there, what they thought they were doing, but they intended to showcase her in some light since she was the main person in the ring,
Yeah, yep.
and all it ended up being was just
She
here.
buried herself, is what
I'm
happened. I
gonna,
mean, it
yeah,
looked
yeah.
bad.
You know what? That sums it up. Okay, now back to what you were saying. Moving on.
Well, moving on from Rodriguez's main role in this match,
Hmm.
we once we get Liv tagged in, her and Io Sky for the most part start actually having a match that's kind of worth watching. But that's because Io Sky is very good, and while I'm not super impressed with Liv Morgan, she's very good at least receiving an ass whooping, and it doesn't look like it's terribly timed and awfully choreographed.
Yeah,
So we basically have Sky kind of running the ropes with her for the most part until Io Sky inexplicably decides again to go after Metaphor that are at ringside. She ends
yeah,
up attacking Jakara Jackson, which results in Lash Legend forearming her into space.
yeah. Because
And
why?
well, at least in this one, the ref saw it, so it ends up being a DQ in their favor. But it could have just been a straight up win against the women's champion with
Yeah,
the way things were going if Damage Control and or particularly Io Sky hadn't messed with Jakara Jackson or Lash Legend at all.
yeah,
That's twice now that the only reason those two were an interference in the match was because Io went up to them and let them be. Um, so I guess they don't want to win a match straight, uh, or something. So that's the only part that I find like a little dumb on the part of Io. Like she's billed as being a very competent wrestler, and her in ring work is fantastic. But then she
mhm,
does the dumb. She gets easily provoked by the meta 2 that have been appearing lately. And I'm not
yeah,
complaining about seeing Jakara and Lash. They're great. I just, in my head, it doesn't make sense why Io Sky is the one causing her own interference instead of them going after her.
yeah,
Uh, I guess ego or something, but I don't know. She did the dumb. But this time it worked out because when Lash clobbered her, the ref saw it and DQ'd it for Damage Control. And that was when uh, after the match, Damage Control ends up in a brawl with the Metaphor or the Meta 2, and Liv and Raquel are kind of off on the side. Well, Rhea Ripley comes down and goes immediately after Rodriguez, and she tosses a headbutt at Rodriguez, the Glasgow Kiss style one that she's very good with, and Rodriguez just no sells that. And then I think she attempts to clothesline Rhea, and Rhea ends up sending Rodriguez out to the floor. And
Yep.
then outside on the floor with Rodriguez down, she grabs Morgan and tosses her back in the ring. And Morgan hits her with a code breaker, like as Rhea's coming back through the ropes. But Ripley kind of quickly responds with a knee to the face. And then she throws the prism trap, which the announcers actually got right this time. They called it the prism trap instead of the prism lock or any other thing they've called it that's not the prism trap before. So good on them. And I think Rodriguez was starting to get back up into the ring, and Ripley drop kicks her back out of the ring. And let's see. I'm trying to remember how it played out more from that. I think Rodriguez almost hits Morgan with a clothesline instead of her target. And then Ripley headbutts the life out of Liv Morgan.
Yeah.
And she starts to set up Liv for the Riptide, but she does so where she backs almost entirely into the ropes. And so Liv kind of goes over her shoulder with Dominic Mysterio, who has now appeared to help. Although, remember that they said this is something that I didn't remember at the time, but when Liv and Raquel came out, there was an announcement flub where they said with Dominic Mysterio, and poor Lillian Garcia, whose first night it is, since Sam Irvin has left the WWE, even called it as such. And Wade Barrett, corrected and said, you said Dominic Mysterio was here, but I don't see him. Well, now he has appeared, and he helps Liv out of that riptide, and they all retreat away, leaving Rhea Ripley looking incredibly dominant over everyone, literally everyone that was involved.
Actually,
As
if I may, what
hmm
had happened was after Dominic got Liv out of the ring, Rhea grabbed Dominic and
oh,
was getting him into the prison trap, but then Morgan and Raquel pulled Dominic out of the ring.
that's right, that's right. You're right.
So
Yeah,
Rhea was still standing. I mean, so Rhea again, she's just destroying everybody. She's putting everybody in prison, in prism locks or prison trap. Look what I just
Prism
did.
Trap. Why?
You
Why
did
would you
it.
do that?
You did that.
That's my
Uh,
fault.
yes, she's out there putting people in prism traps for freaking sake. Yeah, I mean, she's still alpha dog dominant. Freaking 3 other people, and she's just whipping ass. So
Yeah. So Damage Control proceeded to do the dumb again.
Metaphor didn't even hang around. They heard her
No.
music and they were like, "Well, time for us to bounce."
Yeah. So basically, Damage Control is inviting Metaphor to continue to kick their asses.
Yeah,
Liv and Raquel looked absolutely terrible. The only time any of it got better was pretty much once Metaphor and Rhea Ripley got involved.
yeah.
Um,
You know what? I can't even say that Raquel and Liv looked bad. Raquel looked bad. Even when Liv got in the ring, she looked good. Liv and Io looked good going at it. Like the match became an actual competent match when those two got in the ring. Um, Before then, cue Benny Hill music. Like it was a joke.
no, that's a fair point. I meant, I'm sorry, I should have been
I'm
more
sorry.
clear. I meant that Liv as a character, like because Rhea dominated everybody, Liv is
Oh,
now
for
on the downswing
sure.
again.
Yeah,
Raquel
yeah,
looked
yeah.
bad, like both in and out of the kayfabe. Like her in-ring
Yeah.
work is so bad right now that it is not main roster worthy, in my opinion. Again, I don't know if that's ring rust or whatever, but they're going to have to fix that before she establishes a reputation again. Now that like
Yeah.
she's being reintroduced and already in every showing establishing a reputation that her in ring looks like ass.
Yeah,
Like she
and
just doesn't look like the woman who's going to do anything to Rhea Ripley, let alone to anyone else, because she just they're conveying this idea that she's supposed to be this dominant powerhouse monster chick, and I'm not seeing any of that at all whatsoever freaking ever. I mean, it's just
yeah,
bad.
yeah. I don't know if oh gosh, what's her name? Mia. Oh, what's her last
Yum?
name? Yes. Yeah. I don't know if she's on SmackDown or Raw. I can't remember, but I wish that they had put her in Judgment Day instead of uh instead of Raquel. I think
Yeah,
she would have been a really cool addition there, and she already freaking kind of fits with the attitude. Um,
I don't
but
disagree with you in a vacuum, but what they're trying to tie this to is
yeah,
the history that Liv and Rodriguez have when they wrestled as tag team partners and the
I
way
I
Rhea
I
messed with them.
I totally get it. I do. Except uh, Raquel is not doing too great with this. And had she come in and been the wrestler that I'm assuming they were hoping she would be for the storyline, that'd be great. But I would have made a plan B, and I think maybe the that I think Mia would have been the plan B because man, this here's a dumpster
Yeah.
fire with legs, man.
Yeah, it's not going according to plan, and the failure point is clearly, and I am not saying this to be mean to anybody, but this is just the truth as I see it. The failure point is that Rodriguez is not rising with her in-ring work to this occasion. And I'm really hoping that they can get that fixed quickly because this is making the whole angle bomb.
Uh, yeah, I mean this could tank Judgment Day as a whole, honestly. Um, they're already kind of on the edge, if you ask me. So, all right.
Well, as far as I
When
see
I
it,
say when I say
oh,
quickly, or when you say quickly, I'm sorry. I mean like not now, but right now. Like this needs to be fixed. Like
yeah,
it
yeah,
was so
immediately.
bad. It was so bad that I mean I've never the promo +5, the match -50. Like
Yeah. Yeah, no,
I
I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And the thing that I'm saying is a failure point is that Rodriguez is trying to convey two things here. One, that she's an absolute monster in that ring,
yeah
worthy of standing opposite Rhea Ripley as somehow a more than a speed bump for Ripley to run through. I haven't seen
yeah
that yet.
nope
Um, and the other failure point is that she is supposed to be well, I think I broke my points down wrong, but one, she's supposed to be a monster, just period. Like this is
yeah
Rodriguez as her character. She's this big dominant woman. I don't see that. And the second failure point being is that I have to believe that she stands a chance when she gets in that ring with Rhea Ripley, and I don't see that either. So those are the two failure points. And here against Damage Control, she had an opportunity to toss two little women around and did none of that. And so we could have seen some dominant performance here and she gave us zero of that. I don't know who produced the match, but they need to be fired. And whoever and Rodriguez might not be far behind if this is how she performs her in ring. It's not good. It did not
yeah
convey any of what it needed to convey in this match, which was that I have to believe that Rodriguez is a powerful enough opponent that she sells the idea that she's this big dominant woman just in general, and more to the point that I have to believe that she could stand a chance against Rhea Ripley, and I saw nothing that convinced me of either of those 2 points. If anything, I saw the opposite. That I'm still at the point where neither Liv Morgan or Raquel Rodriguez represent more than minor bumps in the road to Rhea Ripley getting her belt back. And that
yeah
doesn't build a compelling match, right? It's just going to be Rhea running through them unless they cheat.
yep
So bad times there. That was an absolutely terrible display from Raquel Rodriguez. And otherwise, the other elements of the match were competent. The real winners of that match were again Rhea Ripley, because Rhea freaking Ripley, and Metaphor, or Meta 2. I don't know. For some reason,
Yeah.
it causes this dissonance in my head because on NXT there's 4 of them, so I get it, Metaphor. But
Yeah.
you only are showing us Jakara and Lash, so it's weird to call just 2 people Metaphor in my brain. Maybe I'm the only one that has that issue on the planet, but it bugs me.
I get it
It's
though.
it's just those 2, and those 2 have been looking outstanding. Pull them to the main roster immediately. They're
Yeah.
fan freaking tastic.
Yeah.
They're the only ones alongside of Rhea Ripley that looked like they were whooping ass in that match.
Yep. I agree.
So
Yeah.
moving on from there, we end up in a kind of funny backstage segment where Bronson Reed, let's see, is this the way it happened? Because I remember thinking these segments were funny because first there was a segment where Bronson Reed approached Adam Pearce to complain about, like, hey, this Seth Rollins thing is some BS. And I think Seth Rollins attacked him, and so they get into a brawl, and that's the first half of it. And then next, they cut to a segment where Seth Rollins is approaching Adam Pearce, saying, you know, this, that, or the other about Bronson Reed, and Bronson Reed absolutely annihilates Seth. And long story short, they break the 2 apart who have been attacking one another all night in a very similar fashion to the build-up between Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed. And Pierce finally gets them separated enough to say, look, if you 2 could quit fighting for 5 seconds, you'd realize I'm trying to give you what you want. You know, you want a match, you got it. It's official for WWE Crown Jewel. And they escort the 2 of them kind of away, but the last shot is Bronson Reed telling Seth that this is the biggest mistake he's ever made. And this was a fantastic, again, another fantastic build up to like a grudge match between Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
And it was fun all night. Like these backstage attacks have been amusing, and
Yeah.
it's really fun. And there you go. You now have another match for Crown Jewel that I think a lot of people will want to see. Well done.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely agree. Uh, again. I'm excited about I keep saying again and not finishing anything that I'm saying, but
Again.
I am excited about what they've done with Bronson Reed. Um, it's just I I look at Raquel and I squint because man, this is how you sell a big powerhouse competitor. Um, and giving us a convincing match between him and Seth Rollins now. Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely convinced that Seth is gonna hang in this match. I don't know. And honestly, they've done so well with Bronson Reed. I don't know who's gonna win. And I love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah. Yep. And Bronson Reed has taken the path of least resistance towards looking like a monster by simply being a monster. Like, he started this whole thing tsunamiing the life out of Seth Rollins. And then he
Yeah.
ended up in a massive set of matches between him and Braun Strowman. His path to reaching the top of the card was following the old, like, I don't, people may have heard this advice, like, if you go to prison, find the biggest fucker there and beat the hell out of him to establish
Yeah.
dominance. That's Bronson Reed's approach here. He went after the top of the card, brutalized them in order to immediately make himself a member of the top of the card. And he's done so phenomenally, and I'm
Yeah.
here for it. Like, I'm really interested in seeing this Rollins versus Reed match.
Yeah. I am too. So
After that, we are treated to a pre-recorded vignette of the now War Raiders, previously Viking Raiders. And it's pretty much Eric with an occasional chime in from Ivar, talking about how they've lost, you know, they've given up their swords and shields to step into a future but they still honor their Viking ancestors who roamed the entire earth, conquering everything that was before them. And it was a pretty good vignette, and we'll see if they aren't mishandled yet again. Um, because the War Raiders could be a very dominant heavyweight tag team, which is again something we need if we're going to have any kind of matches with like Akam and Razar and other heavyweight guys, where it's not just watching them get their arms twisted for 20 minutes.
Yeah. Hmm.
And then moving from there, we enter into a backstage segment where think I think this is taking place in the new clubhouse for the
Yes.
Judgment Day.
Yeah. Because I
And
think Carlito mentions it.
yeah, it was either Carlito or JD mentioning the new
Oh,
clubhouse.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
can't
you're right.
remember
You're right.
who,
You're
but
right.
Finn Balor shows up, and after after they're like, "Hey guys," kind of a thing, introducing each other. Finn mentions that he's concerned that Damian Priest is gunning for the World Heavyweight Championship, and I'm like, well, why? I mean, like, it's not I mean, I don't know why you're concerned about it, but it's definitely the case. Damian Priest has made that clear.
Yeah.
But in that discussion, Dominic Mysterio casually throws out the idea that he can beat Gunther, and everyone starts laughing. But most specifically, Carlito and was it Raquel or Liv? I guess it was Raquel that wants to know what it is that Carlito even actually does. And I think Liv was like, "Why are you laughing?" And Carlito was like, "Oh, me? I wasn't laughing. That was Finn." And Carlito
Mm.
tells Raquel that he brings the cool factor to the Judgment Day, and that lands like a turd in a punch bowl. Like that goes nowhere. And Carlito is like, "Oh, and I'm also a fixer." And they're like, "Whoa, fixes what?" And he's like, "Well, here, I'll show you. I'll go have a conversation with Adam Pierce." And then he runs all out of frame with Raquel kind of looking confused after him. And that was the Judgment Day's little segment. And that leads us into the third match of the night with the Creed brothers representing American Made, and with Chad Gable and what's her name? The little bulldog, Ivy Nile,
Yeah.
versus Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee with Zelina Vega in tow.
Yeah.
And this is another number one contenders match for the tag team titles.
Yeah. And here, uh, I was not very impressed with Rey Mysterio. Um, and I don't know why I'm talking low, like he can hear me, but I
What's that
I think
coming out the sky? REY Mysterio. Here he comes. He's gonna 619 you for speaking ill of him.
I know. I'm so sorry. I am a fan. Just because of what he has accomplished in WWE. I have a lot of respect for Rey Mysterio. I have a lot of respect for his son Dominic. I think these are uh really great additions to the company. But with all that being said, there Rey Mysterio seemed a bit out of sorts. There were a few times where he just looked a little sporadic, a little man, I don't even know what the word is.
No.
Um I don't know, I'm not really sure what to call it, but on the other hand, um Brutus looked phenomenal.
Yeah, both Brutus
But
and Julius, but Brutus
both
especially.
Brutus and Julius looked phenomenal, but Brutus really caught my attention, and for like one of the examples is his interaction with Rey Mysterio was just amazing to see. There was one particular time where Rey Mysterio was going off the top rope for a move, and he went like that jump was so high that he was about to go past Brutus. He was about to
Mhm.
go over his shoulder, and Brutus caught him without issue. Like, just caught him and gently brought him back to position before Ray went on with his move. Honestly, uh, the Creed brothers are amazing. Like they are the future of this profession. Honestly, they were great to see, and Brutus just he impressed me. Uh, he impressed me with beyond words. Honestly, I knew they were good. I knew they were good, but watching a veteran like Rey Mysterio slip up on some moves, and watching someone, I guess,
Relatively new.
relatively new like Brutus, not try to outshine, not try to upstage, but make both of them look good. That's amazing.
I have to agree with you, and I think the spot that you're talking about was like a middle rope thing, not a
Yeah.
top rope thing.
Okay.
It
Okay.
was where Rey Mysterio sometimes will do a flying crossbody off the middle rope,
Hmm.
and I'm not sure if it was just somebody was out of position or Ray launched himself, like you said, maybe a little too high. But it wasn't going to land right, and and for all I know, the spot was that Brutus was supposed to catch him, and it was just a slightly awkward catch that he corrected. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but Brutus caught him and then put him right back in the position he needed him in. Tags in Julius, then body slams Mysterio, and then both Brutus and then Julius climbed the corner rope to the top and hit moonsaults. And Brutus is a big boy, and his
Yeah.
moonsault barely and lightly grazed Rey
Oh
Mysterio.
God.
And I don't mean
Yes.
that he missed him; he landed fully
Mm-mm.
on top of him, but he held himself up high enough that Mysterio did not get literally smashed.
Yeah. He did not squish him at all. Like,
Yeah,
just amazing.
no, and it was in that moment that like the professionalism and the strength of Brutus Creed became clear. Like that
Yeah.
dude is insane. And his handling and catching Mysterio and just proceeding to execute his moves in such a way that Mysterio is very well protected and safe impressed the hell out of me. And Julius as well. Julius, I mean, the Creeds just performed super solidly. And it not only was that impressive, but this ultimately is in a match where they don't win. Spoiler: Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio end up winning this match when, after hitting the 619, Mysterio tags in Dragon Lee and Lee connects with a frog splash to pick up the victory.
Hmm.
And this this was the opposite of the number one contenders match that we had earlier in the night, where we had Akam and Razar versus New Day.
Yeah.
And opposite in terms of like the Creeds absolutely were hitting all of their stuff, and it wasn't just Lee and Mysterio twisting their arms the whole time. This was a
Yeah.
good match.
Yeah.
And the
It was.
Creeds looked great, and Mysterio and Dragon Lee looked pretty good, with the exception being, like, I agree with you. It might have been like, it seemed like Mysterio was slightly off that night.
Yeah.
But I mean, everybody has a night like that, right?
Absolutely.
Last week it was Braun Breaker who, as I believe you phrased it, should do one less line of coke prior to his match.
Yeah. Real talk.
So this was a fantastic match. There wasn't like a huge amount of storyline that the previous match of the night was trying to convey, but you actually got a decent match out of it. Like you would appreciate the in ring of what happened between the Creed brothers and the LWO.
Yeah.
So we get a solid match. And the way it wasn't opposite is this is two big dudes versus two littler dudes that are more high flyers. That's in that way, it's the same as Akam and Rizar versus the New Day. It's just that Julius and Brutus were able to make it work in such a way where it wasn't just Lee and Mysterio again kind of putting them in arm locks and all this lame looking stuff.
Yeah.
So take that for what you will. This was actually a very good match, and I'm with you. I was very impressed at how Julius and Brutus performed. Um, those guys need to be pushed to the moon. They're really, really good.
Yeah. Absolutely agree. I knew they were good, but I don't know. They just impressed me more than I thought possible. Uh, that on Raw, just in that match, was
Yeah.
impressive.
Yep. But that does set us up with at least a pair off against the LWO versus the New Day, which in this run up to, Darth Xavier has kind of had some history there too. If
Mm.
you recall, a couple weeks back, Xavier Woods getting in Rey Mysterio's face because he felt that the LWO cost them their shot at the tag titles. Well, now the
Yeah.
LWO will have an opportunity to cost you that shot directly. So
Yep.
we shall see
That'll
how
be
that ends
interesting.
up going.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's the moment that Xavier does it. If he's gonna do it. If but yeah,
Yeah,
I kind of agree with you. I think they're coming away from that. So, but if not, we shall soon see.
we shall soon see. But following that really, really good match, we have a segment in the back where Carlito the Fixer has shown up to declare to Adam Pearce that Dominic Mysterio should be the next person to get a shot at Gunter's World Heavyweight Championship. And of course, Adam Pearce laughs that off. And then Carlito's like, no, seriously. If Dominic were able to beat a former World Heavyweight Champion, that would be great. Give him a chance. And then he proceeds to just immediately descend into straight up begging until Pierce is like, okay, okay.
Oh God, yeah, that
And
was so
and
great.
and then we get sort of the standard Pierce phrase that he needs a drink.
Yeah,
Um
you know what? That's his version of like remember Lethal Weapon? Danny Glover's I'm too old for this shit. That's his version of that.
yep, exactly so. Um and then we cut to another backstage interview. This time it's Kathy Kelly speaking with the World Heavyweight Champion Gunther. And he goes on to say he doesn't understand why Cody Rhodes always drags his personal friends into business matters. He must love drama. He says that Cody's a fantastic champion, but let's be honest, he's not on Gunther's level. Everything that Gunther touches turns to gold. But he does say he'll be in Brooklyn this Friday at SmackDown, which, just to interrupt this promo, I felt like Gunter started out almost saying what we were thinking, which is like, why do Gunther and Cody need yet another face off? They've already
Yes.
done it and it went well, so why do
Yep.
it again?
Yep.
I don't feel like there's a whole lot more to say, and I kind of felt like that's where Gunther was starting this at. But then he's like, but yeah, I'll be there. Um, and then after saying that, Damian Priest interrupts his interview and joins the conversation. And he goes on to say that he would like to remind Gunther that Damian is coming back for the World Heavyweight Championship, but that he's not looking for a handout. He'll absolutely earn the opportunity. And he goes on to tell Gunther, go to Crown Jewel, handle your business, but know that, regardless of how that turns out, when you come back here, you've got a major problem with Damien on the other side. And Gunter just kind of smiles and laughs him off and then leaves. And that's apparently Damien definitely making his intentions for the World Heavyweight Championship known.
Yeah. And I
Which,
think Gunther said something. I don't remember what it was that he said, but it was something like "good for you" or something like that. Uh, a dismissive,
yeah.
yet slight approval.
Yeah,
I don't know.
kind of.
Something like
Yeah, I
that.
think you're right. It might have been like good for you, something like that.
Yeah,
Um, so we shall see. I'm here for it. I
I'm
I
here for it.
feel like Gunther and Damien can give us one hell of a match.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. But I mean, to be fair to both men, I mean, Gunther can give a good match to almost anyone. Because
True.
he's just that good. I mean, all in character kayfabe things aside, Gunther is outstanding.
Yeah.
He's a good promo guy, especially for a guy who, the accent tells you English is not his first language. He
Yeah.
freaking nails it. He gets it. He's hilarious. And
Yep.
so nothing but praise for Gunther and Damian Priest. Anyone who knows me knows that I've been marking out for Damian Priest since the minute I discovered Damian Priest was a thing that existed. So
Yeah.
I have nothing but upsides on the prospects of a Gunther Damian Priest rematch.
Yep.
Assuming that it isn't going to be more of Finn Balor inserting himself where he clearly doesn't belong, which I am super over, by the way. Like, I just am over that so much.
Yeah. Yeah. You ain't wrong. I'm over it. It's time for them. I mean, honestly, they should go do something else. Maybe work on this Raquel problem. I don't know. Do something else.
Yeah. That said, we come to the fourth match of the night, the main event, Intercontinental Champion main event, Jey Uso versus Braun Breaker.
That's right. The
And
time for talking is over.
time for the main event.
Main event.
Yep. Oh, I miss Mark Henry doing that.
I know.
Um, I didn't think I
This
would,
though,
but I do.
yeah. This match, I'm not trying to give it all away and whatnot. And I know you might want to go run down some of the highlights and whatnot, but I just want to say that for me, this is pretty much what I expected.
Not
This
just
match.
expected, we straight up predicted how this match was going to turn
That's
out.
true. That's
And
true.
in the interest of not giving away the ending too
Yeah, please
soon,
go ahead. Take it
just
away.
know that we predicted this outcome.
Yeah.
Um, Now, it starts out as a very solid match between Braun Breaker and Jey Uso. And I say that, I mean, not that we didn't expect it would be a good match, but again, a week or so earlier, Braun Breaker was looking a little shaky in the ring for some reason. I don't know if he had poor chemistry with who he was wrestling or whatnot, but him and Jay did great here. Um, we had just going through some of the high spots. There was a point where Breaker started doing some push-ups after power slamming Jay for a 2 count, which is a callback to his uncle, air quotes, uncle Scott
Yeah.
Steiner.
Mhm.
And I say that because Breaker favors Scott Steiner so much more than Rick Steiner that, kind of like how people are like, is Dominic Mysterio Ray's kid, or did Uncle Eddie do some things that, well, maybe he spread around the Latino heat too much.
Oh
So,
my god.
and that's all I'm going to say about that, because, I mean, it's just because, like, these guys' sons favor like their brother or their uncle, more than their
Yeah.
father is all I'm saying.
True. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and let's see, Breaker impressed me by nailing a standing moonsault. Breaker is a lot more acrobatic than I think I anticipated him to be.
Yeah.
And for being the power guy that he is, it's really impressive when he does that kind of stuff. I know they always like a guy that big shouldn't move that way, but I mean, to Breaker's credit, he really is a lot more like nimble and agile and acrobatic than you would think.
Yeah.
For the way he's portrayed as this massive powerhouse. And so him hitting a standing moonsault that looked really solid was really cool. And of course, he did the run up Super Frankensteiner, which always looks cool unless he botches it. But I've only seen him kind of slip on the ropes once. So to his credit, Breaker hits this thing and it looks incredible.
Yeah.
And we're having a fairly solid match until.
Dun dun dun.
Yep. I think Jay ends up hitting a big spear on Breaker, and everyone's like, oh man, this match is done. And it's not. Breaker kicks out. And then I think they end up on the outside of the ring, and we see Solo Sikoa arriving at ringside in the crowd with Jacob Fatu. And Solo is holding a blue Yeet shirt. And while the camera's on him, he points out that him and Jacob bought tickets. So they have every right to be there. Um, and we're like, okay, we predicted that the bloodline, and most specifically, I said it's going to be Jacob because last week on SmackDown, Jay told Jacob that if he keeps staring at him like that, he's going to knock his ass out. So of course we've got Solo and Jacob here. And initially, it's just them talking back and forth until Breaker tries to get the jump on Jay, and Solo says, "Hey, watch out!" And Jay, in fact, does watch out, and then tosses Breaker back into the ring. And let's see, they go back and forth a bit. There's a point where Jay drives Breaker face first into the ring post, which the ring post is always the answer for the bigger, meaner wrestler to get his ass kicked fairly easily.
Yep.
But while on the outside, Jay, who's looking a little winded because him and Breaker have been going at it, is kind of leaning up against the barricade, and he thinks a fan is just encouraging him until he turns and looks and realizes that it's Tonga Loa. And Jay's like, "What the hell?" I mean, at least that's his facial expression. And then he steps back and hits him with a massive super kick. And so Jay fired first, right? For anyone who's wondering.
It's true.
So he immediately attacks Tonga Loa with a kick. And this gets Solo to... actually, let me see. He kicks Tonga Loa straight in the face. And I think either dragged him over the barricade or something, and then Tama Tonga comes flying in. I guess he launched off of the barricade but misses. But the only thing we noted about Tama Tonga's contribution to this is that he was flying through the air making that stupid chihuahua noise where he's going, and it's like, why are they leaning into this? It's so dumb. It is so stupid. It just makes Tama Tonga look like a dumbass. But either way, we now have the Gorillas of Destiny involved, and Solo I use that term loosely. Solo gets over the barricade, and Jay keeps trying to intimate that he doesn't want any of Solo's help, and Breaker at this time has set up like a wraparound spear, and so while Jay and Solo were talking, Breaker's coming in for that wraparound spear, and Solo kind of moves Jay out of the way and eats the entirety of a super spear. And then when Breaker turns his attention from that to go back to Jay, he does like this really cool standing rising knee strike to Jay, and then rolls Jay back into the ring. Breaker ends up having kind of a standoff briefly before he gets back into the ring with Jacob Fatu. And while they're doing that, Jey Uso has recovered and hits them with a suicide dive, which it hits both of them pretty good, but it sends Jacob Fatu completely over the announce desk. Like, Jacob got drilled with this one. And Jay then rolls Breaker back into the ring and sets up for the Uso splash, but Breaker's able to pull his knees up. And then Jay dodges the super spear and hits Breaker with a couple of super kicks, and then Jay connects with his own spear and drags Breaker into the corner where he delivers an Uso splash. And we're thinking, all right, despite the interference at this point, Jey Uso has this match won, right? Like he's hit him with the spear and he hit him with the Uso splash. It's over. Well, Breaker apparently didn't get the memo, and he kicks out at 2. And at this point, the referees become distracted by the Gorillas of Destiny, and I think while they're up on the apron, Adam Pearce and some of the security or backstage guys they pull the Gorillas of Destiny down off of the apron and forcibly remove them. And so you've got the ref watching all of this as they're being escorted up the entrance ramp. So the side that is where the announcers are, no official is looking at. And it is in this gap where the official and everybody else's attention is on the Gorillas of Destiny that Jey Uso attempts to do his own wraparound spear. And as he's running around the corner and he makes the corner heading towards the announce booth, Jacob Fatu steps out from between the announce booth and like that announcer barricade and just super kicks the life out of Jey Uso. Like Jey was running full blast into this super kick, and so Jey is now decapitated.
Yeah.
And then Jacob picks up Jey and in a Samoan drop position and hits him with a massive Samoan drop onto the announce table. And Breaker then, of course, capitalizes on this to toss Jey back into the ring and then, does the super spear where he runs back and forth against the ropes twice before hitting him with the spear. And this, of course, allows Breaker to pick up the victory. And this means as well as not only do we have a new Intercontinental Champion, Braun Breaker, but Jey Uso lost the Intercontinental Championship he worked so hard for exclusively because of the interference of the Bloodline, and most particularly because of the attack from Jacob Fatu. And it is with Braun Breaker celebrating his newly acquired Intercontinental Championship and the Bloodline kind of carrying on outside the ring that we bring the show to a close.
Yeah.
And
we called it. That's all I can say.
We called it.
We called it. We knew this was going to happen. And the only reason that I'm okay with it is because there had to be a way for the belt to come off of Jey so that Jey can go to SmackDown. And they're pretty much setting everything up for us. And we also predict that Kevin will eventually come to Raw.
Kevin Owens, yeah.
Yeah, Kevin Owens. So Jey and Kevin switched places originally, if you guys remember. And I think they're just going to reset the time and put Jey back on Fridays and Kevin back on Mondays. I think that's what we're about to have happen.
Yep.
In which case, okay. And maybe Kevin is going to go back to Monday as a heel. I'm not sure.
I can't imagine why he wouldn't. Unless he gets real, unless it's sold, just to talk about Kevin Owens' side of the things, instead of it just being out of nowhere, we're just going to throw Kevin Owens back. They decided to give it at least a little storyline. And so he's on the outs with WWE and SmackDown and probably not real thrilled with Nick Aldis. And he's certainly pissed off at Cody Rhodes and he's upset with Randy Orton. So we'll have to see if he comes back still upset at WWE writ large, or if Adam Pearce is like, yeah, you're right. The way SmackDown was treating you was bullshit. And so he comes back and he's like way up on Raw. And so his anger isn't at WWE writ large. He's like, SmackDown can go to hell. I'm Raw for life now, We'll see if it's that, or if he's like, yeah, whatever, WWE can kiss my ass, which will more likely dictate whether he's a heel or a face.
Yeah, 'cause I gotta tell you, I'm okay with him being a heel if he's gonna be a heel. That's fine. But what I'm not okay with is him getting into another spat with Sami Zayn. God, I'm over it. Like, they need to fix it. That relationship has crashed and then been repaired and then crashed and then been repaired so many times. I don't know how many divorces and how many marriages I can take from those two.
Well, I'm sure it's going to be something. The easier sell for me would be that they bury, like in Kevin's eyes, SmackDown gets buried and screw Randy Orton.
Yes.
He's coming back to Raw where he's appreciated by Adam Pearce and his actual friend Sami Zayn is there. I could see it being pitched like that, like his real friend.
That's the pitch. Yes. I'm hoping that's the pitch.
But again, at least they did something with it. Like, it wasn't just like, and Kevin goes to and Kevin goes to Raw. Like they've tried to make a storyline reason for both of these men to want to swap brands, and that's good.
Yeah, that makes sense. It checks out. So, overall, what's your opinion of Raw?
I would go ahead and say it was top tier. I did have some quibbles with it. I really wish that Raquel looked better.
Oh
but
man.
the overall segment with Damage Control and Liv and Raquel and Rhea and Metaphor, like Raquel might have been the downside of that whole thing, but it didn't bomb the entire thing. Like I'm still hyped to see what's happening with Rhea and Liv. I'm always hyped to see anything that's happening with Rhea, honestly.
Yeah.
And we've got to see some more of like one, we got to showcase Damage Control, who have been really putting in the work, and they look good. With the exception being, and this is for story purposes, so I'm going to give it a pass. I'm not really saying I think Io is dumb. I'm saying how her character has been behaving kind of invites her to get her ass kicked where it need not be kicked. But it's
Yeah.
fueling a fire between Damage Control and Jakara and Lash, and I'm here for it because there's obviously already kind of like a natural pairing of like Lash and Jakara against Bianca and Jade because they're the tag champs and they match up physically a little bit better. But it's good that that's not where it begins and ends. This is looking like Jakara and Lash are making an impact to several elements of the women's roster, and that's fantastic. And you're also getting these segments that are brilliantly put together where you've got the women's champion and Rhea Ripley, like, you know, this is top card stuff that Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend are also a part of. So, you know, these ladies are touching all of the major touchstones of the women's division on the main roster, and I think that's brilliant. I really like it. So, writ large, I'm here for everything that is going on with that segment as a whole. I just think Raquel isn't holding up her part of to play in it.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna bomb on the whole segment just because Raquel's not looking that good. It still largely works. Raquel's just the weakest link, and I hope they fix it. I really do. I'm not here to hate on Raquel. I'm actually really hopeful and see a lot of potential in her, but I can't make that come out of her. She has to. And so I had that quibble. I had a minor quibble with the match between Akam and Razar and the New Day being a relatively boring match that was almost exclusively in the service of storyline without really caring about the in-ring of that particular match. But it wasn't enough to take away from the spots that were way up, which was Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed throughout the night attacking one another. That was amazing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you know, the stuff with Gunther, the stuff with Damian Priest, the backstage segments on the whole were really entertaining and good. And the match between Mysterio and, the LWO and American Made was an absolute in-ring banger. It was fun, and I was impressed as hell with the Creed brothers. And Jey Uso and Braun Breaker gave us a fantastic match until we got the interference, and it was still all fantastic. I'm just saying, like, as a one-on-one match, they were bringing it, and the interference didn't cost us that in the same way as like the New Day. Their stuff was obviously exclusively for what happened after the match. The stuff that happened with Braun Breaker and Jey Uso also happened after the match. It wasn't the whole purpose of it. Like, they still gave us a great match. So all of that summarizing put together, I'm going to give this at least an 8.5, maybe even a 9 out of 10, because the movement on the Bloodline stuff was super good, but all of the other subplots going on were also well capitalized on. So this is top tier.
Yeah. I tend to agree with you. I think I would give it a solid 8 for sure. And I have to say, while Raquel was the weakest link, I don't think that she did enough damage to bury everyone. I think she just buried herself.
Yeah.
That was a self-contained nuclear bomb right there. Like, it went off just on her and around her, and that was it. Nobody else was harmed in that implosion. I hope, like you said, I hope that she can turn this around. Because honestly, I know I did not imagine her being amazing in NXT. I didn't imagine her having an amazing match with Ronda Rousey. So I'm just chalking this up to maybe
Exactly.
yeah, maybe she's not feeling as confident as she used to in the ring. Maybe she's got some in ring jitters, whatever the case. I hope that she can pull out of it and give us and give us what I know she can. I give us what we've already seen. Just
Yeah, exactly.
that. But I don't want to harp on her. I honestly think that if she comes around, then this could possibly do some great things for Judgment Day. So let's hope for the best with her. The main event happened exactly as you and I predicted, but does that mean that it was unenjoyable? No, it was
No,
great.
never. It was satisfying, which
It
is
was great.
far greater than
Yeah,
being unpredictable for unpredictable's sake.
I absolutely agree. So that was good. All in all, this was a really great Raw. So I would definitely call it top tier. So yeah, eight is the number that I would give it. Um, and yeah, I think yeah, eight out of 10. -2 for Raquel. That's it.
Yep. And I kind of want to, I agree with you, obviously, because you're agreeing with me. With regards to Raquel, I'm with you. I don't want to harp on the bad stuff too much because here's the way I see it. Raquel, she looked good. I liked the outfit she was wearing. Although the street trash shirt, I'm not sure I understood, but like the chaps and everything else, she looked like a biker chick, and that works for her. It looked really good. So, and the promo she cut was fantastic. So we know you got it as far as promo, and your look is good. You're also like way bigger than a lot of the other women on the roster. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Like you look dominant. So really the only weakness is that the in-ring needs to come up some. So if you
Yeah.
fix that, you absolutely fit this role that they've put you in. And so that's all we're saying we want to see. This isn't about running Raquel into the ground. I've said that repeatedly. This is about us seeing the potential, and we've seen it before, as you pointed
Yep.
out. We've seen the hellacious matches between Rhea and Raquel in NXT, and we saw Raquel take Ronda Rousey to the limit on her debut. So we know you got it in you. Find it and bring it to this situation because you are in a top card angle. If not now, then when?
Yeah.
So we're just hoping that that's the Raquel we get to see. We were excited, like I said, when we saw that promo. We were like, "Oh, okay." They've heard, that she shouldn't just be this voiceless lummox, and they've given her a chance to cut a promo. And you can talk the talk. Now we just need you to show us that you can walk the walk too. And we've seen it before, so we're hoping to see it again. That's
Yep.
where I'll leave it with Miss Rodriguez. That said, this has been our coverage of WWE Monday Night Raw from October 21st. And I want to thank everybody who has joined us for this episode. And our next episode should be our coverage of AEW Dynamite that is going to happen tonight. And we hope that you join us for that as well. That said, I think there's nothing much left for me to do but roll the outro.
Guys.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Top Tier Wrestling. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the latest AEW and WWE news and shows. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. Follow us on social media for updates and to join the conversation. Until next time, everyone, remember, wrestling is always better when it's top tier.